So welcome everyone. As I was saying, this is the Maths in Storybooks session. So welcome to the Oakland Literacy Symposium. My name is Alia Gabrez and I am your room host. I want to get started by sharing some of the really exciting things we heard this morning from this morning's plenary. I know that I was really motivated and really recharged to get focused on the conversations that we'll be having for the next 2 days, but also being very aware of the fact that there's a lot of work to do moving on from this symposium and moving on to our regular lives. So I'm really glad that you're able to be here to share in this session with us. Before I hand it off to our amazing speakers and presenters, what I will do is just go over some quick logistics for everyone, just bearing in mind that we will have the session moderated, and if you have any questions about any of the content that's coming up, feel free to just drop those in the chat box as we go along, and we will have our speakers respond to those as we progress, but we also do have some time for reflections at the end. We also want to make sure that you guys are part of the whole symposium experience. I know that you have logged in through the Hoover platform. Feel free to jump into those conversations at any point, engage in those really exciting topics and questions. If you have any, throw them in there, be part of that conversation as well. There are prizes, I'm told, right at the end, so that might be an incentive outside of just being engaged and curious. So with all of that said, I am going to throw to our speakers and make sure that they're able to introduce themselves, because I know they've allocated some time there, but I want to invite Paola and Yolanda to join us and present for the Maths in Storybooks session. I'll pass it on to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alia. So my name is Yolanda Romo. I am the early learning, sorry, I realized I'm getting ahead of myself. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for virtually joining us today. I really hope you're excited and ready for our Math and Storybooks workshop. I am very excited to be here. Like I had started earlier, my name is Yolanda Romo. I am the early learning specialist and have been with Tandem for a little bit over a year now. Prior to this role, I was teaching first grade. I taught for 3 years and I really enjoyed that. Overall, I enjoy working with children, and that's what brought me to Tandem as well. So that's just a bit about myself. Here today with us is also my colleague Paola, and I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. My name is Paola. I've been working at Tandem for almost 3 years now, but before that one, I'm an early Head Start teacher, infant toddler teacher, and I'm looking forward to doing this workshop with you on the other half. And yeah, welcome. Back to you, Yolanda.
Thank you, Paola. And before we jump into our content today, I do want to share a little bit about our organization. Tandem Partners in Early Learning is a Bay Area nonprofit working at the intersection of social justice and early childhood education. And because partnership is at our core, we work alongside school districts, early childhood education agencies, and community-based organizations to co-create equitable, high-quality early learning experiences. And the way we do this is across our 3 program areas. So we have story cycles. That's our school to home book sharing program. We also have Early Learning Everywhere, where we offer family focused workshops, play and learn groups, and many more services. And also we do this through network capacity building. So that's a way to strengthen the overall ecosystem through professional development and community leadership programs. And as some of you may know, we use multicultural, multilingual picture books as a starting point to support development across language, literacy, math, social emotional learning, social justice, and much more. So like I said, our workshop today is titled Math and Storybooks. And after this workshop, our goal is that you will be able to, one, identify different math concepts that can be found in non-math storybooks, and that you can use math language and practice math concepts while sharing a book with a child. And very briefly, I'd just like to go over a few tech norms. So I do ask that you please keep your microphone off when you're not actively participating in the discussion or asking questions. And I do encourage that you keep your video on if possible. If you do need to take a screen break or walk away, that is okay too. Also, I think I might have seen everyone's name is on the screen, but if you can just take a quick sec to double check that the name on your screen is your preferred name, that will help us a lot with participation as well. Another way to use tools to make this workshop interactive is the chat function. So we will be using the chat function a lot. So let's go ahead and start with that. If you can open the chat and go ahead and share one thing you hope to gain today.
Yolanda, are you still there or you disappeared? Oh, okay. You disappeared. I think there's maybe your connection.
Yes, I think Yolanda, if you want to.
Yeah, there. You're back. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I apologize for that. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and type in the chat. What is one thing you hope to gain from this workshop today? And thank you, Elia, for sending that question in the chat. Okay, so I see participants saying that they're looking for specific read aloud books and suggestions. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Demystifying math and making it accessible and fun. Overall, that's the most important thing, right? We want to make it fun and engaging. Getting more from books, and also strategies for introducing math learning experiences that do not reinforce capitalism. And I see someone else shared, would love to gain new knowledge of recognizing and intentionally early math skills. Thank you, Priya. I really like that too. Learning about the different ways that math shows up in storybooks. Yes, I agree. Always excited, right, to see how we can use books and math together. Thank you, everyone who is sharing in the chat. I encourage you to keep sharing those goals for you and what you hope to gain from this workshop. We'll continue to read them as they come through. Well, now let's go ahead and get started. But before we dive into the main content of the workshop, we want to take a few minutes to talk about why math is so critical. Now, it's common knowledge that literacy and language development are critical components of early learning, right? And we already focus so much on early literacy and language development in the early learning space. So we want to bring this attention and note that early math also predicts school readiness and positive academic outcomes. And having a critical understanding of early math concepts is a powerful predictor of children's later learning outcomes across all learning, not just in STEM, but also in literacy and language arts. So promoting children's understanding of early math concepts is therefore an issue of literacy and justice. So why not math storybooks? And I do want to note that with some books, we can clearly see the math connections. You can see some examples on your screen. We have pattern fish, we have city shapes, and I know numbers. And these books reference patterns, shapes, and numbers in the title and in the illustrations. So it's pretty easy to figure out how we could use them to talk about logic, maybe talk about geometry, counting. But these are only a few examples of great math books, and there's plenty of great options out there, both math books and non-math books. So the thing is that math is all around us. Books. So you can always opportunities, the tips we talk about today, anywhere with or without a book. And today we will look at some titles that wouldn't look like math books at first glance, and we'll practice all the ways you can use regular book sharing time to build early math skills along with literacy and language skills. So I do want to invite you that if you have some math books or non-math books you use to practice math already, please go share and share those titles in the chat. That way we can add those titles to our math book toolbox. Now, here we have a page from a book titled Soñadores by Morales. And let's go ahead and start with this as our first example. So look at the images, look at the text, and look for opportunities to bring up math and to talk about math-related concepts. So I'll give you to look for opportunities to bring up math. And once you've identified a couple, feel free to share one. You can share it in the chat, but also I do encourage you to unmute yourself and share out loud. What opportunities to practice math are you seeing in this page? Ooh, I see some examples for counting, right? You can count the stars, right? How many stars? We can count the butterflies. I also see Mary shared that we can look at patterns and practice patterns as well. Great, another good concept. Ooh, shapes in the letters. That's awesome, thank you so much. Colors, identifying colors, right? Thank you, everyone. These are all good examples. Thank you for sharing. And we can truly extract many math concepts from all books, right? Both math books and not math books. So that's the important takeaway here. And I do want you to take note of how many math concepts you were able to extract from this page. Maybe if you found counting and patterns, make note that you found two, because we will be revisiting this page at the end of our workshop. So if you're able to make a quick note on a piece of paper, or if you want to note it in the chat, feel free to send and take note of how many math concepts you were able to find in this page alone. And as you can all see from your examples, you're all experts already in finding math concepts in non-math books. So now our task is to make sure that children become experts in that too. So why does math matter? You all already know that preschoolers need to know about numbers and shapes so then they can build on that knowledge later on in school in future grades. But why do you think math matters for children in general? And how does math help their thinking and their learning? Well, to start off, mathematical thinking is very important because good math learning is not always about getting the right answer. In fact, a wrong answer can be a better opportunity for building math skills as long as we adults stay positive and we encourage the child to reflect on how they got their answer. And one great way to encourage this mathematical thinking, especially when we're not getting at the right answer right away, is asking the child, how do you know? Or why do you think that? And really hearing what the child has to say and the reasoning behind this. Also, there's problem solving. And this kind of reflection supports children to develop the kinds of critical thinking and reasoning skills that will help them solve real world problems, not just equations. So we want to make sure that we're making math applicable to real world situations. And we can do that by bringing math out of the textbooks and into the world, right? Supermarkets, everyday activities. Next is persistence, and teaching mathematical thinking is also about encouraging children to keep trying and not give up when they don't get the answer correct the first time. And doing this builds frustration tolerance and persistence, which we can agree that those two are very important skills as well. And lastly, math also promotes literacy because math incorporates a lot of your vocabulary words and it involves comprehension and problem solving. These early math skills are actually predictive of later success in language and literacy as well. So we just went over these 4 reasons why math matters. I do want to pause for any questions about this, maybe thoughts or reactions. Feel free to share them in the chat at any point throughout our workshop.
No questions so
Do
far.
you have any questions? Okay, thank you. We don't have any questions. I'll go ahead and move on. So here we have, we're about to see an example of a read aloud. And we'll only get to see a short clip of this book titled Bedtime for Sweet Creatures by Nikki Grimes. And I really hope you are familiar with it. If not, I hope that after watching this clip, you'll want to go and look for it and read it for yourselves. But here we have that's Michelle, and they're reading this book. And as they're reading this non-math book, I want you to observe what math concepts are being practiced and are being touched on. So let's go ahead and watch this clip. And again, look for opportunities and look for examples of using math throughout the read aloud.
Pattern, because we're seeing this pink circle, blue circle, pink circle, blue circle. And how many owls do we see? Can we count them together? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 owls. And which owl is the biggest? Which owl is the biggest? Is it this one? No, this one's the smallest. Is it this one? No, this one is medium, right? It's in between. And is it this one? Yeah, this is the biggest owl. It's larger than the other 2. Can you see the snake? Here's the snake. And do you know what shape the snake is making here? Yeah, this looks like a circle, right? And we can tell that the snake has a pattern because we're seeing this pink circle, blue circle, pink circle, blue circle, pink circle, blue circle, pink circle, blue circle, right? So it's pattern because the images and the shapes are repeating.
Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed watching that clip. And Oh yeah, the title is Bedtime for Sweet Creatures by Nikki Grimes. Yeah, I do encourage you to go look at this book. It's a great book. And thank you, Paola. Paola just typed in the title in the chat. So feel free, I really do encourage you. I would love to hear from at least 3 participants to share out loud. What math examples or what math concepts did you see being practiced in this, while using these pages from Bedtime for Sweet Creatures?
Counting.
Counting, thank you. And what were they counting?
The owls.
The owls, right?
And the loops of the snake.
Loops. Thank you. So we definitely saw counting. Thank you, Mary. What else did they do with the owls? They counted the owls, and what other concept did you catch there? Great. I see Angelica shared the size of the owls, right? And what vocabulary did they use to describe sizes? So they looked at, thank you, Mary. Yes, bigger, smaller, larger, right? Okay, I know there's a couple more that we saw there, so I do want to hear from more participants. Yes, medium and in between, right? Those were other words that they used to describe sizes. Pattern, right? They found that pattern in the snake. Anything else that you caught? Awesome. Shapes, right? They identified the shape of the snake, a circle. And even getting more specific with the vocabulary, right? It looks like a circle, but also we can expand and say, ooh, does it look like a circle? Does it look a little bit different? Maybe using the word spiral as well. Great. So just to recap, I heard that you shared counting, patterns, sizes. There was even some comparison there with the owls, patterns and shapes. Thank you, everyone who participated. So now you may see some of those math concepts here on the screen. These are these are the math topics that we will be covering today. And helping small children learn about math involves using counting, like you saw examples with the owls, simple addition and subtraction. And my colleague Paola will talk a little bit more about techniques to incorporate addition and subtraction in storybooks. Also shapes, patterns, and even some measurement and comparison. And I do want to note that typically children start being able to count on their own at about 3 to 4.5 years old. And simple addition and subtraction, as well as comparisons, are more appropriate starting around age 4.5 to 6-year-olds. However, I do want to note that children develop at different rates, and like you know, not all children follow these rules. However, the important thing is to find out what your child already knows and to build from there. Also, with that said, it's never too early to introduce these ideas, even if your child isn't able to answer your questions yet. You can start by counting and pointing out maybe shapes and patterns, even with little babies. And if they aren't answering questions yet, or they're not engaging in those conversations verbally, that doesn't mean that they're not learning. So don't underestimate the power of starting early as well. So like I said, my colleague Paola will be going into more in depth of each of these concepts. So I'll hand it over to you, Paola.
Thank you, Yolanda. Hi everyone. It's been really quiet. Feel free to unmute yourself to share if that would be more um, helpful to engage. But here, do you guys see my screen? Yeah. Yeah. So Yolanda shared the importance, right, of um, the reason why we incorporate math early on with our young children. And so I'm going to be talking more about the math concepts and what we can use to practice with our young children. So the first math concept that we have is called counting. So we tend to think that with counting as just one skill, but actually successful counting requires a number of layered abilities. So with counting, it's not just counting words, one, two, three, or the symbols, one, two, three, but also it also incorporates counting in sequence, knowing that after one is two, and after two is three, and after three is four. So knowing the order, the sequence. And then the last one is knowing the meaning behind the numbers. So understanding that number one refers to one object and two means two objects. To actually understand the quantities represented by different numbers and how they compare to each other. And this last skill is the one that we adults often take for granted. So an example for that one is that here there's number one or one for one kitten, and two for two kittens, and three for three kittens. So knowing the meaning or the quantity, right? So in the next few slides, we're going to look at a few different ways we can help children understand the meaning behind the numbers. So, so here, we're gonna look for each number goes with only one object. So we're gonna go and we're gonna go and look for the last number you count is the total quantity. That's how many. So the idea of each object stands for one number is called the one-to-one correspondence, where we're gonna do that after a few more of this one we're gonna show you. We can reinforce this by pointing at one object as well as we count. And then the idea of when we ask how many, that's the idea of cardinality, right? So the total, the last number that you counted is the total number of the objects. So how can we help our children is to point each object as you count. So we're gonna try that. And also like hold up the number of fingers when we're counting, right? We're gonna do this. Ready? We're gonna ask, how many signs are the protesters holding? So here, this is obviously a non-math storybook. It's called Hands Up by Brianna McDaniel and Shane Evans. And so here, we're just gonna count the signs that the people are holding. So we're gonna do the one-to-one correspondence by counting the one, two, three, four, five. There are five objects or five signs, right? And so when we ask how many, so that's like the cardinality, right? Like the last number that we counted was number five or five. There are five signs in this picture. So that's the concept of counting. So with counting, we just think about like the counting one, two, three, and the words and the sign. But actually, there's so many things that we can learn just by that concept counting. Are there any questions so far? Please write in the chat or just unmute yourself. No? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead, move on to our next math concept, the addition. So when we think of addition, you know, it's kind of like for older children, right? But we can actually incorporate addition as, as the children start with like young, like maybe around 3 years old. But usually at this age, we don't really expect them to compute large sums or number. Of course, we're gonna start with simple number like 1, 2. um, and Yolanda, go ahead and share the chat if there's someone, because I can't see them.
Yeah, Fernando shared that he likes counting fingers with his son using ASL counting. So number 3 is
Oh.
using both index finger and middle finger and thumb rather than the traditional like 3 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually the number 6 sign.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing us the sign language for that one. I think with the example that we are using in the slides, we just found what we can find in Google Images. So we apologize if it's not in the actual ASL counting or numbers. Yeah. So for addition, we're going to go use the picture from Egg by Kevin Henkes. The first thing, of course, we're gonna go just like add 1 or 2, but in this case, I think we're just adding 1. And how can we help children is to have like a visual, right? So here we're gonna help the child visualize the numbers by talking about things coming because it's addition. So we can ask question like, how many birds do you see? So first, we're gonna count the birds that we see. So we're gonna count, there's 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 birds in this picture. And then when you incorporate the addition, you can ask, what if the yellow, this should be yellow-green, sorry. The yellow-green egg hatches. If you know the story, the Egg by Kevin Henkes, it's not a yellow-green bird, it's actually an alligator. But in this case, we're just using the yellow-green bird. So before we counted 3, and then the yellow-green egg hatches, and now there's how many egg? Oh, how many birds? So we added 1, right? So we're gonna count again. So from 3, and then we add 1, we're gonna count again. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 birds, and number 4 looks like this, right? So now there are 4 birds in this picture. So that's kind of how we kind of incorporate addition in storybooks, non-math storybooks. And I'm seeing chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you, we do have a question in the chat, and Mary's asking, how many times would you stop reading the book and do the math concepts? She shares that she thinks that it would slow the flow of the book itself if you did every page.
Well, with children, it really, when you follow their pace, actually, this can be maybe good for a smaller group size and not really for if you have an agenda for story time with your young children. Of course, you're gonna be following your timeline, but for maybe a small ratio or like 1-on-1 or maybe 3 children with 1 teacher, you can go ahead and have that kind of use this as like a learning or teaching about that concept. Is that helpful? What are you covering? Can you expand on count again? Well, we're covering the addition. So when we count, we because children learn in repetition, right? So when addition, when is great for like old age, for like around preschool age, when we incorporate these kinds of exercises with non-math storybooks, it gives them the idea that, you know, there's addition, that we can incorporate addition in non-math storybook, because obviously this is not a math book, right? It's just a storybook that we have in our classroom or with our children, and we can incorporate math in whatever book that you have. And I hope that that answers you, Kat. If not, Yolanda, feel free to.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I think also my interpretation of this question is like also the count, cover, count again. And that covering part might apply a little bit more directly to the subtraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll see it in the next slide a bit more about that covering and counting again, and how it applies to subtraction.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So here addition is just where we're kind of unfolding. I think I just did it for the purpose of this workshop. Yeah. So yeah, going to the subtraction, like what our participant was sharing about the cover here, we're looking for subtracting 1, right? So we can go ahead and help the child visualize the numbers by talking about the going, right? Because we're subtracting, removing. So with preschoolers, it's easier for them to understand addition first before subtraction, because you know how children like mine, you know, more. But as you know, they progress with their development and learning, they learn about the removing or saying goodbye. So here we can go ahead and count again. We're gonna count the number of birds. So here we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 birds in this picture. And so to help children visualize the subtraction concept, we can help children to cover up, right? So what if the yellow bird flies away? So then we can help by covering it up with a piece of paper or, you know, your hand, by covering it up, and then ask them again to count. So we can count again. There's 1, 2, 3. Now there are 3 birds left, right? Because we covered 1 bird. And this is how number 3 looks like. Yeah, so from 4, we remove 1. There's only 3 left. And that's how we kind of incorporate simple subtraction. And I see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what we when we with children, when we're following their pace, you know, we just kind of encourage them with like, you know, where do you want to start book, or but I guess for some like teachers, we start from beginning to end. That's how we kind of practice self-regulation with children, right? So with that one, if we are in the classroom setting and we have an agenda of having a story time, you can also like share with the children and have a one-on-one about incorporating this kind of teaching skills. So you don't have to really like start from the beginning to the end. Yeah. Thank you all for your responses too in the chat. Okay, are there any question? Feel free to use the chat again, or just, yeah, go ahead, Yolanda.
Sorry, I do want to bring attention to a question that was asked earlier from Wova, and it says they're asking any new or recent book titles addressing early math skills and or concepts that we should all know about.
There are a lot. Actually, if you just check out in the library, each time I would always see, are you, sorry, is it specific for addition and subtraction or any math concept that we're sharing right now?
I think they're asking just in general if there's like any new or recent book titles.
Well, every year there's always something. So if you check in the library, they are, you know, they would always like like this one is shapes. It's brand new. I think this is just 2021. It's about shapes, and it's a board book. It's for infants and toddler. Um, and also, yeah, we can also share with you some other titles that we have. Just email us in our info@tandembayarea.org, and we'll get back to you with that kind of resources. Yeah.
And then before we move on, there is one more question. And they're asking about incorporating math in poems. So thoughts on that?
Poems. I'm thinking about haiku, right? The syllables. I think that would be kind of like, adding, like, when I'm not really a poetry type of person, but I know when growing up, when I learned haiku, I really love it. But if anyone have a suggestion with that one, please, feel free to share in the chat as well. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So we're gonna practice the addition and subtraction. So I'm gonna have a volunteer. I'm gonna ask for a brave volunteer to unmute themselves and practice the addition. How can you practice simple addition using this non-math picture book, Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love? So we have a prompt here, to help you. So with introducing simple addition, how can you use this page? Can we have a volunteer, a brave volunteer to unmute?
Hi, this is Cassie.
Hi, Cassie.
Hi. So when I first saw the image, I was just thinking of how many are above the water versus how many are below the water. And I think it's very, right away, before even counting, it's very easy for the child to kind of view it first, or kind of understanding what that means in terms of number and math concept.
Yeah, like also, counting, right? The also direction, like top and bottom. Yeah, it's like a spatial recognition. For addition, can you like expand more? Like how can you share this with a child? Like if you're talking with a child, how can you share with them this picture?
Yes. So it'll be kind of counting how many people are in the water. So you can count with them like 1 and then 2, and you point at each person, and then that'll be adding. And then when you do subtracting, it'll be maybe cover the child who is below, and kind of like how many do you see now, and just like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Cassie. Yeah. And also like to also like share too, we kind of added that too, like for addition too, like we can, but first we're gonna go ask them, let's count how many people are in the pool, right? Like what Cassie was saying, like let's count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 people in the pool, like just like there. And then with the addition, we can, what if someone is joining in? So there are 6 and someone is there and maybe it's gonna jump in. So if there's 6 before, if we add 1 more, there's gonna be, after 6 is gonna be what number? 7. 7 people will be in the pool if she joined in. And also what Cassie was sharing, like if we cover it up. So again, we're gonna start counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6, what if we take 1, right? Or 2 and covering it up, right? We cover it up with a piece of paper or we cover it up with our hands. And that's how we can incorporate that simple addition and subtraction. And do you have any question again? Chat. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we really love Jessica Love, Julian is a Mermaid. Yeah, thank you, Layla, or Leia. Lelia. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat again, and or just unmute yourself to stop us. So the other math concept that I'll be sharing with you today is the knowing shapes, right? So with knowing shapes, storybooks are a great resource to help children identify shapes in many contexts. Recognizing shapes in many contexts, different positions, sizes, and colors. So for young children who aren't really like exposed to seeing a lot of shapes, these two this kind of like large triangle and a semi-large triangle put together in different position can be confusing for them, right? But when we start pointing out for children who are non-verbal yet, we can just ask them, can you point to a triangle? Or can you, or ask a question like, is this a circle? So that's a yes or no type of question. And just like engaging them to like look at the picture and look for like the shapes that they know. And I know with young children they have a favorite shape, and usually it's the triangle, the square, circle. And here you can point to a triangle. So it's they like the I Spy game. So when you kind like, let's see, I spy with my little eye. So if you're making it into a game, it's encouraging them to be more engaged. Um, and then for older children, you can ask question like, how do you know it's a triangle, right? And then before I would like experience responses like, because I've seen triangle before and it looks like that. But then that's how you're gonna gauge what they know, and then you can add information by saying, oh, because triangle has 3 sides, can we count them together? Let's count. 1, 2, 3. There are three sides in triangle. And then adding more shape vocabulary to them, which is a semicircle. Maybe they don't know a semicircle. What is a semicircle? If they know, they will answer you like, it's a half of a circle. If not, then that's like, again, introducing a new shape. And I know that Yolanda taught me about one shape that I'm always confused. What was it, Yolanda? You want to
To
share?
distinguish pentagon, hexagon, octagon.
Yeah. I'm always confused with those.
Yeah, I had to use my Spanish to remember octagon is like ocho, so 8.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or
Yeah.
octopus.
Octopus. Yeah. Because in my head, octopus have 6 tentacles. So when you taught me that, now I know that octopus have 8. So octagon have 8 sides. So that's incorporating more complex shapes, right, to our children's shape vocabulary. So are there any question again? Okay. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead to our next math concept, which is oh, maybe we can do this. We can do this. We'll make it work. So we're gonna go and practice the annotation. If you can go ahead and look for your view option in your screen and click for annotate and click for draw. So here I'm gonna invite you to draw your favorite shape. Can you go ahead and draw your favorite shape? So annotate lets you draw on the slide. So can you guys try it? Or so far I don't see any shape.
Looks like there's a
Oh,
circle, some hearts,
yeah, and
through a
some of you might not
square.
have that access, right? But yeah, some of you are using a different, and I apologize for that one, but hopefully that you can participate by using the chat on the next one. So thank you for participating. Now, if I can get someone to erase it so we can go to the next slide. So here, I'm going to invite you all to go and trace the shape that you see in this book or in this slide. Here we use the Brick by Brick by Giuliano Ferri. It's another non-math storybook. And here we can incorporate, sharing knowing shapes by asking our children to trace, right? Trace with our finger. Can you draw the shape that you see in the book, whatever that you're sharing, and the whatever shape that they see? Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you seeing any shapes, Yolanda?
Yeah, so I see some rectangles up here in the bricks, and then some of the participants circle the ears and the head to show circles. Triangle for the ears. We can even find another triangle down here.
Okay.
What else?
Yeah, and yeah, I so far I don't know why I don't see it on my screen if someone is doing it, but yeah, here there's the triangle ear, the shape of a S, right? Letter S, the letter U of the tail of the cat, and the ear of the mouse circle, right? So we can see shapes everywhere, right? We can or incorporate shapes even with just like the stories that non-batch storybooks that we share with our children. Yeah, thank you all for doing this exercise with me. If I can, Yolanda, do you mind erasing the shape? Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next math concept, we have patterns. So in order for something to be a pattern, we need to have a basic building block, or what we call the pattern unit, that repeats, right? Like predictable, in a predictable way. So we can help our children identify patterns or point one out and ask what comes next. So here we can ask children, this is an example that we have in this picture, Rain by Christian Robinson. Do you notice a pattern in the tulips? How are they arranged? Right? There's the top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, right? Or up, down, up, down, up, down. That's a pattern. And another one is a pattern on the awning, right? The colors is light, light, dark, light, light, dark. What comes next? Right? So when we ask that kinds of question, we are practicing their pattern making. And then you can extend it until the end. And in here, they're gonna make their observation, right, from the past. So when they do that, we're helping them understand the patterns to recognize and extend, and then they create their own pattern. So when a child is able to recognize the building block of pattern and answer the question, what comes next, the child is making observation and making a prediction based on that observation. And that's the earliest block for learning algebra. So what's next in the pattern is the preschool equivalent for solve for X in this equation, right? Because we're asking them what comes next. So patterns are also important in the art, and with songs, there's like chorus, repetition, and dances. There's patterns. And I see someone. Oh, and Alia also shared the book list suggestion. Thank you for that one. Yeah, so I want to know what other places can we find patterns. So using the chat, please share with us. What other places that you see have patterns? For me, an example would be the bathroom stalls. They have tiles, and they have repetition of, tiles. Okay. Oh, am I too advanced? Sorry. Yeah. So if you have any question, just again share in the chat. So here we're gonna practice. How would you help your child recognize patterns in this picture? So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and share with you. So here, we look at this page. It's full of shapes and full of patterns. So looking at the neck, there's the, maybe you can do up, down, up, down, up, down, or the burgundy yellow, burgundy yellow, burgundy yellow. So it's like a predictable pattern, right? And also the eyebrow and the leaves, it can be left, right, left, right, left, right. So in here, there's just like many patterns that we can incorporate, in asking children, what are the patterns you see? And then asking them, what do you think will come next? So predicting.
I'm not sure that you can find a lot of patterns in nature. For example, parts of a
Yeah.
bee or a snake, a zebra.
Yeah, in nature, in the flowers. Yeah. So the last one that we have for math concept is the comparison and measurement. So here, we're gonna identify relationship in size and length and number, volume between two objects, right? And we can help it by pointing out similarities and differences. Use comparative words ending in ER and superlatives ending in EST. Like maybe you remember what Des shared in the owl, the sizes of the owl, right? Here, who is bigger, the boy or his puppy? So asking the relationship in the size, right, between puppy and the boy. You can ask question, which is wider, puppy's scaffolding or the boy's play structure? So you can ask questions like that in comparing the comparisons and measurements. So when we try to use words more than or fewer than, here when we use the measuring, we can use, actually you can use your finger or a ruler or anything that you can use to a thing that both can be a measurement. In here we're going to use the dime. So here let's maybe see how many dimes can fit in Papi's scaffolding. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. How about at the boys play structure? There's 1, 2. So we can use the words like more than, right? So who has more coins or dimes that we use? Is it Papi's scaffolding or the boys play structure? So asking questions like that, we exercise that math vocabulary with children, and it's gonna be easier for them to understand when they go through their older grade or higher grade, because we use that. I know that for first grade, my daughter would be doing that in her math workbook already. So when we're doing this as well, it's we're incorporating that, making observation and the relationship between two objects with children. And this is also introductory for algebra and scientific experimentation, right? Because we're using coins to measure two things. So putting it all together, we're looking at Yolanda's, Yolanda for sure shared this one. And using the chat, how might you use this page to practice with your child? So using the math concept that we have shared with you, like counting, add, subtract, shape patterns, and measure, compare. Are there any difference between when you first saw this picture or right now? Let's see. Are there any brave volunteer who would want to share with us what we can, what kind of question that you can ask using this non-math storybook? We have a very quiet participant today. Okay.
I see
How
that.
many stars? Yeah, how many stars, right? We can count 1, 2, 3, 4. And star is another shape. Patterns of the sunburst, yeah, the sun rays, the patterns of colors, right? And which butterfly is bigger? Yeah, comparison in sizes, measurement, right? The farthest one is the smallest, right? And the nearest one is the biggest.
And Kat shared an example for counting and subtraction. So saying, oh, let's count the butterflies. One of the butterflies flew away. Can we count again?
Yeah, the subtraction. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And then for pattern 2, for making pattern, how many books are open and how many books are closed? Yeah, counting, right? And also that with that one too, it's Yolanda shared that also with us, like open, closed, open, closed, open. What do you think will be next? Like if there's another book here, it's gonna be what? So making prediction for pattern. Yeah. And then the letters too, earlier someone shared the shapes in the letters of the picture, right? Yeah. How many? Yeah. Well, thank you all for your responses. Now, to end this workshop, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you to write in the chat again and reflecting. I hope you've learned something new or reinforce the things that you already know about, sharing math concepts with young children. And let us know what is the one new technique that you will use to practice math with your child or your children. Someone shared, I will use to practice math using the count, cover, count again strategy. Yeah, yay. Yeah, counting is repetition. That's how they master it. And you count and then you cover and then you count again. Yeah, for subtraction concept. Thank you, Kat. Are there any other prediction and patterns? Patterning, predicting what will come next. Yes. Yeah, those are all important. I wish I knew this information when I was a preschool teacher or infant toddler teacher, because I really think it's very beneficial. Well, thank you all for your responses. I'm gonna go ahead and share with you the virtual resources. My colleague Yolanda will be sharing in the chat the resources that we have from Dream. Since 2017, Tandem has been working with development and research in early mathematics education, or DREAM. DREAM is a network of amazing academics across the nation, from universities like UCLA, Columbia University, Boston College, Stanford, and others that are researching math in early education. Yeah, and University of Chicago is another great webpage for family math learning. And also on DREAM's website, you can find more great resources like this handout. Yeah. And then we also have this other resource. If you're interested in receiving either or both of these resources, please let us know by emailing us at info@tandembayarea.org. And this workshop is created in collaboration with DREAM and provided by Institute of STEM Education, a program of California State University East Bay, and Mala Valley Family Foundation. And I think that's the end of it. And we want to thank you for participating, and I hope you learned something new or reinforced already something that you know. My name again is Paola Bea, and Yolanda, you want to add something before we give it to Alia?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you for participating today. And I really enjoyed reading all those takeaways and those comments in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. We might just, if you could have your screen share turned off there. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. I just want to quickly give a very, very sincere and warm thank you to Paola and Yolanda. I know personally for myself, I've learned so much just being able to sit in on this session. There are a lot of techniques that I know probably may seem like they're pretty common sense, but then when you hear them spoken back to you, it's definitely a really great reminder. I know that there's a lot of math concepts and things like that that I'll be taking moving forward. So what I've just dropped in the chat box there for everyone is our very short evaluation survey. And if you just want to click on that there, and you'll be able to quickly just give us some short answers about this morning's session. And it'll be a really great way for us to also connect with you all over the duration post the symposium. So feel free to do that. One other thing that I will also point out, there is a bit of a party happening over at the Hoover platform. So feel free to jump in there. And I know that there's some symposium specific questions and conversations that are happening in there. But then there's also some really important, some other important information, like where your most favorite eateries in Oakland. So be sure to jump in there and participate in that conversation. Again, I want to make sure that we thank our speakers, Paola and Yolanda. Thank you all as participants as well and attendees for being here, for being part of the conversation and being part of the questions and the chat box engagement. We are about to go into a lunch break. So feel free to log off and take a bit of a break, but do come back. I believe our next session is at 12:50, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have our next block of workshop sessions, and then we will have our plenary, closing plenaries later this afternoon. So on that note, thank you all and enjoy the rest, the little bit that is left for this morning. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you, everyone.